Welcome to the woods, or welcome to the cabin, because as much as the sun's shining out there now, it's been raining quite heavily, so I'm doing this one inside. Now this video kind of going to be a follow-on from the Who's Really Running the Show one I did last week, and the reason I'm doing it is I was having a chat with someone at work and they asked me what I thought of this COVID-19 thing and the lockdown and where it was all leading. And I nearly scared them to death, to be honest, with a nigh on 10-minute tirade of a hellish dystopian future. The look on their face was not only one of horror, but they had no idea how I'd reached the conclusions I'd reached. So I thought, I'll scare you to death as well. Because the future doesn't look too bright. But that future's not set in concrete. And what I described to them was a system that's going to be put in place where cash has been eradicated. Small businesses no longer exist. You'd have to work for a mega corporation. You'd have very little money or be on universal basic income at subsistence level. You'd be told when you can go out and how long for. You'd be told where you could go. Travel would be curtailed. You wouldn't be able to get around it by using cash and having a sneaky train ride down to the coast because cash would be gone. So you'd have to use your card. And you go to pay and your card would say, sorry, you're not authorised. Food will be rationed. You'll be allowed a certain amount. And again, no cash, no sneaky backhand deals with Des the butcher down the road. There will be no cash. You'll go to buy that extra packet of bacon and bzzzt, sorry, purchase declined. You've had your week's worth of bacon. It's a future where the small freedoms we've got today will exist no more. Told where you can go, when you can go, what you can buy, what you can eat, when you've got to be in, how long you've got to stay in for. And these things are in place now. Supermarkets have just put rationing on certain items. The government has told you when you can leave your house and who you can meet and how long you can meet for, what time you have to leave somewhere, when you have to go home, who you can work for. You can't work at that business anymore, but you can work at this one. And we've kind of taken it on board because of the virus. And I understand that not everybody, in fact nearly nobody, looks into these things. Nobody recognised or saw that the CDC came out last week and said that 91% of the deaths listed to COVID in America probably weren't COVID at all, and that only 6% could be factually attributed to COVID-19. And that's probably the same everywhere else. That most people that died were over 80 and had more than one existing major illness, either cancer or respiratory problems or diabetes or Alzheimer's. And it was these were the people listed as COVID deaths. And as we know, COVID ran through the care homes and the hospitals, and it was the elderly and the infirm that suffered it as a consequence of that. But it beggars the question, why the lockdown of everything? Why the destruction of the economy? And it is the destruction of the economy. Never before would you have had a government willing to do that. And never before have all governments acted in accordance. So, if that's what's happening, why? Well, I touched on the previous video about just the UK's national debt running at, the interest payments on that running at £5,500 a second. It's a ludicrous sum of money, and the system's got to such a stage where it's unsustainable. It's always been unsustainable, but it's now reached a point where those debts can never be repaid. And as much as that gave the banks immense control, the new system's going to be controlled in a different way. If it's not based on finance, it's going to be based on resources. And the reason for that is the ever-increasing population throughout the world. And even in places where the birth rate is declining, they're trying their best to flatten that curve by importing millions of people from where the birth rate is very high. People are used as commodities by the banks and large corporations like figures on a spreadsheet. They're moved around with no consequence, no forethought, simply to make the sums add up. And I'm pretty sure the conclusion they've come to is the same as anyone who would look at this situation, is that the planet is a finite item. The resources are finite. There is only so much that we can dig out or chip off to make things. So either the population needs to decline, which may well be on the cards, or the resources need to be controlled, and it's not going to be us who's controlling them. It'll be the same people that are controlling finances now. So the banks, the elites, the mega corporations will take control of the resources. And if they do that, they're also going to need to take control of you and me. They're going to need to ensure that we do as we're told. And much the same way as China has introduced its social credit system, where people are penalised and restricted on travel and restricted on social activities if they don't toe the line, that will be coming. AI and automation, which are already creeping in, if you care to look at these things, are going to ensure mass unemployment, the likes of which we've never seen. When the large corporations in the West no longer need the workforce, what are people going to do? They're going to have to introduce some sort of universal basic income. But that's going to be at subsistence level. And to ensure that the people don't rebel, they're going to curtail your travel. They'll take away cash. The reason they're going to take away cash is, one, to eradicate small business. The government won't be able to deal with thousands and thousands of small businesses. They want to deal with 20, maybe 30 large corporations that own every business. So John the window cleaner, who has his little cash round, it pays him enough, he pays his bills, pays his mortgage, has a little bit to go on holiday, he'll be gone. John the window cleaning service owned by Costa Coffee or Starbucks will still exist. And John might very well end up working for him and saying to himself, well, I'm not earning half as much as I used to, but at least I've got a job. But the government will want that. They won't want to deal with John and Mike and Pete and Richard, all those hundreds and hundreds and thousands of small window cleaners. They'll want to deal with one corporation. It's much easier. It makes a lot more sense. And if you haven't got cash, none of that purchasing stuff you shouldn't be purchasing. You will only be able to purchase what they tell you you can purchase. It'll be on your card. It'll be electronic. You'll be told you can have 2 packets of bacon a week. And when you try to buy your third, your card will be declined. They'll tell you that you can only travel once a month. And when you try to buy your train ticket for your second journey or a third journey, your card will be declined. They'll tell you when you can go out and when you can stay in, who you can meet with and how long you can meet with them for, how many of you can meet. They'll want to curtail any large crowds or gatherings of people because they won't want people getting together, thinking, talking, discussing about how things are going and what they might be able to do about it. And we can see all that being put in place now. I remember a conversation Peter Hitchens had about something completely different. He was talking about the barriers and the gates at the entrance to Downing Street and why they were put up. Because you used to be able to walk all up and down Downing Street. But then when the IRA were bombing everything, they put barriers there. And those barriers got bigger. And they were eventually 20, 30 foot high gates. So no one could get down there. But once that threat had disappeared, the gates were never taken down. Because nobody wants to be the person who says, well, it's okay now, let's take the gates down. Just in case. And that's usually what happens. Something will be put in place for some reason, and it will never change. Rarely does it go back to how it was before, which is why they're telling you that this is the new normal. Get used to it, people, because this isn't going back to how it was before. You are being told where you can go. You are being told who you can meet. You are being told what you can purchase. Just last week, supermarkets already started to put limits on what you can buy. These things will get worse. Now, this new system is not going to be in place in the next 5 to 10 years, but it is coming. I've seen the move to getting rid of cash start already. I can't put cash into my daughter's bank account. That's no longer allowed. I used to be able to. I used to be able to go and put £50 in there and it would be in her account and she can spend it, and that's fine. But no. Now I need to put it into my bank account, which is difficult because I haven't had a bank account for nearly 20 years now. So they can trace where the money is coming from at all times. If you try to pay £500 into your bank now, there'll be a questionnaire. Where does the money come from? How did you get it? And you can kind of see where that's going. So in a year's time where you pay in £250 in cash, where did you get the money from? Well, he did a favour for me mate, wanted to help laying his drive. Are you self-employed? No. Have you declared the money to the Inland Revenue? You can see how it works. The future looks bleak, but at the moment there are things you can do. You need to prepare for the next year, because in order for this to gain ground, they're going to have to terrify you. Don't let them. They will manufacture a shortage of food and other items. Be sensible. You don't need to buy 500 rolls of toilet paper, but while you're in Tesco's or Asda or Sainsbury's or wherever, pick up some tins. Pick up one extra. Stock up a little bit. Look into the land you've got at home, your garden. What can you grow? Whatever you can grow yourself is going to save you in the long run. Things might not look rosy, but there's things we can do to make them better. The main thing is, don't let the bastards grind you down. If we want to take the future back, it is possible. Speak to you soon, people.